Hello, I'm Jay Nicoll, Nicoll Investigations, and the host of Ontario Cold Cases, the podcast. And this is a special edition on the murder of the Ottey sisters in Toronto and Canada's useless justice system, again failing to keep a murderer in jail. This is from an article by Michelle Mandel on the Toronto Sun from Saturday, May 18th, 2024. The headline reads, "Killer of Ottey sisters granted full parole despite risk." A vicious killer who ended the lives of his ex-girlfriend and her sister in a shocking and gruesome double murder 28 years ago is being granted full parole. And the Parole Board of Canada didn't even bother to have a hearing before setting Rohan Ranger free. The decision was made by way of an in-office file review. So much for life in prison for multiple killers. Ranger, 48, is yet to take full responsibility for his heinous crimes. He still blames his cousin Adrian Kincaid for the actual slaughter of his ex-girlfriend, Marcia Ottey, 19, and her 16-year-old sister Tammy, on August 16, 1995. He still maintains he just wanted his cousin to scare Marcia into not leaving for a U.S. university, and he was nowhere near the bloody Scarborough townhouse basement where the girl's mother would discover the bodies of her only children. It was not my intention he would kill either of them. My only intention was for Marcia to stay, Ranger insisted, at his first parole hearing in November 2022. The court thought I was present in the house at that time, but I wasn't. According to prosecutors at his trial, where a jury convicted him of first-degree murder and manslaughter, Ranger was the man with the plan. He had Kincaid abduct Tammy on her way to work and use her to gain entry to the Ottey house. Once inside, his cousin was to herd the girls into the basement and wait for Ranger to arrive. Yet the parole board still adopts Ranger's efforts to minimize his role. He advised a plan to scare the victim, which resulted in a disastrous outcome. Disastrous doesn't come close. This was the rage of a spurned boyfriend. Marcia was just days away from leaving the Arkansas state for a track scholarship she worked so hard to achieve. When she first told her jealous and controlling boyfriend of 4 years that she was going, court heard Ranger put a gun to her head and warned her that if she ever tried to leave him, he'd kill her. As he wrote in her yearbook, "If I can't have you, no one will." And then he made good in his threat. Very unaccomplished Marcia was beaten and stabbed 19 times, 9 so forceful that they penetrated the floor under her body, and her throat was deeply slashed. Her sister was stabbed clear through the chest and her throat was cut. While Kincaid continues to serve his life term, Ranger was granted day parole in November 2022 after an emotional hearing where the victim's mother, Avis Ottey, poured out her endless pain. "Does your mere 25-year sentence equate to your actions of 2 lives brutally killed?" she asked, sobbing. "You killed my only 2 children in our home, and you left them there for me to discover their bodies. That is evil." And she ended with this: "I have waited all these years for an apology from you. Will you give me an apology today?" Even that he couldn't do. I do think about the destruction of Mrs. Ottey's life. The destruction is so catastrophic that I didn't feel there was any possible thing I could do, no matter how I feel, to undo it. On day parole, Ranger has been living 4 nights a week at his mother's home, 3 at a Toronto halfway house. He'll now be able to live full-time with his mom and continue to work in her property management business, the board said. A community psychological assessment in August 2023 found Ranger had no mental health issues and no need for further counseling. "You continue to express significant remorse for your actions and the harm you have caused, indicating this will remain with you for the rest of your life." But why is no one concerned with this? According to the Spousal Assault Risk Assessment, or SARA, you are a high risk towards a partner and a high risk towards others. Given this rating, your friendships and relationships with females will require close monitoring to ensure you are engaging in safe and healthy relationships. We shouldn't worry, though. For the next 2 years at least, Ranger must report all relationships with women, sexual or otherwise, to his parole supervisor. Thank you for listening, and please consider subscribing to Ontario Cold Cases, a podcast on Patreon, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or Amazon Music.